We're starting off the episode with a surprise Super Bowl winner. Go ahead and guess it. I bet you won't get it. It's the Indianapolis Colts defeating the Lions 42-23 in the Super Bowl. MVP goes to Jonathan Taylor. Your NFL MVP goes to Josh Allen. Coach of the Year, Sean McDermott. Odafe, McCaffrey, Depoy, Aiden Hutchinson. Your Rookie of the Year on offense is Cowboys receiver Bobby Richards, while corner of the Falcons, Lindsey Bennett, wins it on the defensive side of the football. There's your end of season recap for 2025. Let's quickly just go through retirements here. We have some really big ones here at the top, that is for sure, in case anybody has some of their favorites on their favorite teams retiring here. But some major names across the NFL calling it quits after our first full season in the series. In terms of dev traits here, we see two changes on the offensive side of the football. Jack Conklin down to normal dev in his age 32 season. Didn't get a ton in the way of any sort of regression, just 7 overall, but -3 run block is fairly significant. Then we also saw a regression here for Lance Linton. Now, normally for a rookie, I like to override any regressions after their rookie year. I feel like every player should be given at least a 2-year window to prove their worth for their dev traits. I'm considering making an exception to that just because Lance Linton allowed the second most sacks in the entire NFL. But you let me know what we should do with that in the comment section below. Of course, he had superstar development in his rookie year, did struggle, went down to star because of it, and likely just because of his low overall. Madden doesn't like low overall high dev players in their regression system, so you can let me know whether we should give him one more year of superstar dev to prove himself, or if we should keep it as star. If I don't get any feedback on it, I'll probably just keep it at star myself, but I'm pretty 50-50 on it, and I could go either way depending on what is desired in the comments section. Defensively, not as much going on. We get Juan Thornhill, who is a pending free agent, down to normal dev, but we do get our only dev up of the season, and this was kind of one that I saw coming a bit, and it is JOK up to superstar dev. He was awesome both when we watched and in simulation this year, so I think he definitely deserves it. That upgrade that we did at the end of last episode gets him that third ability as well, so going into his age 26 season, we have a new superstar on defense, which you absolutely love to see. I was kind of hoping with all the interceptions that Newsom would also get the upgrade to superstar. That would have been a big boon, of course, as well, but he is sticking at star. I wonder if he both upgraded and downgraded. You'll see that at times, and it doesn't look like he did. He just didn't quite do enough to get to superstar dev, it seems. And as we get this offseason underway, on the resign screen, apparently we have negative cap space. I don't really know why we didn't have that when we were in the resign throughout the season, but I think it's finally time to do what's been kind of overdue. Now, to make this kind of actually make sense, because we know he has a fully guaranteed contract in the game, it doesn't look like he quite has that, but if we designate this as a post-June 1 cut, it's kind of close. We're still saving 10 mil more than we would with a post-June 1 designation, unless there's something about Deshaun Watson's contract that I'm just not aware of. But Madden is often inaccurate in their contract numbers and stuff. But it's finally time to release Deshaun Watson. For flavor reasons, we're designating it as a post-June 1 cut to get these savings. But in what has been one of the biggest failed moves in recent NFL history, Deshaun Watson is finally off of the team. As free agency gets underway, there is breaking news out of Cleveland as superstar edge rusher Myles Garrett is threatening a trade request due to the status of the team. Not happy at all to be at age 30 playing for the team that just had the worst record in all of football. He has not officially requested a trade yet, but has officially put pressure on the organization to make some moves to win now, or that trade request will come. One of the best defensive players of his generation. He wants to have some success before his career ends, and while he likes Cleveland, ultimately he wants to win more than he wants to stay in Cleveland. So will that pressure from Myles Garrett change our strategy at all for free agency? It's kind of hard to tell, because while there are a couple of starting caliber quarterbacks that are available on the market, neither of them have any interest at all in coming to Cleveland. Also a lack of money to really sign these players, as Brock Purdy seeks nearly $60 million per year, and Sam Darnold seeks a little under $50 million a year, with only $37 million in cap space. Even if they had any interest in joining Cleveland, we really wouldn't be in the market for either of these players who are already getting offers, which means we'll likely be forced to look at the rookie quarterback market for a starter next year. Will that please Myles Garrett? Perhaps, but it will for sure put some pressure on that rookie quarterback to be good early, and for the front office to build a team that can win around them now. What about elsewhere on the free agent market? Is there anyone with any interest in Cleveland? Mark Andrews is the top free agent available at the tight end position. His overall lack of interest, as well as the presence of David Njoku, makes that not as tempting. The only guy with sort of interest is Kendall Fuller, but our cornerback position is good, and it's still not quite high enough for us to be able to pursue him. The only free agent that has really any interest at all in coming over to Cleveland is Odafe Oweh, and he just plays at a position that Cleveland has already sunk a lot of assets into. Now, if Myles Garrett looks like he might be on the way out soon, this would be a very sensible replacement. He's looking for about $17.5 million a year at base. We would have to give him, actually, based on our, of course, custom rules, we'd have to give him more in the, $20 million a year range at a base. I would probably just put it straight at a 5-year, $100 million contract for Odafe Oweh. Now, maybe 4 years, 80, but you get the point. Daniel Gibson was a bit of a disappointment in his rookie year too, when he has a particular skill set that I think could allow for some flexibility. One of the big things about Daniel Gibson is I think he can move inside for some plays and play on the inside. He has 90 strength, which is elite for an edge rusher, but certainly allows him that flexibility to move inside in passing situations. Could be a situation where, he's a base end, but on third downs in nickel packages and dime packages, he moves to the inside, and that will allow kind of a 3 pass rusher rotation. We did bring back Sam Hubbard, so that would be a lot of money allocated to the edge position between a first-round draft pick salary, Sam Hubbard back at about $8.5 million, Myles Garrett's contract, and Odafe Oweh. But if the Browns have any desire at all to make any sort of impact on the free agent markets, Odafe Oweh is really the only one that has any sort of interest. I'll show you here. Again, we require yellow interest based on our house rules to sign anybody during the first 2 sessions of free agency. And look at this. Other than Odafe Oweh, nobody over 80 overall wants to come to Cleveland. In fact, nobody over 75 overall wants to come to Cleveland. And we're even going down. The top 100 prospects, or not prospects, but players here in free agency, only one wants to come to Cleveland. So although it might not be a good fit, it might be our only chance to improve the roster. And with defensive tackle being such a big need, maybe we move Daniel Gibson to the inside. He'd be a little bit undersized for the position, but maybe we could have him bulk up a bit, play a bit more inside, and that would allow for an addition like Odafe Oweh onto the squad. Ultimately, that would be the choice that the Cleveland Browns will make here, feeling a bit of pressure, wanting to add to this defensive front. The Browns have offered a 4-year, $80 million contract to Odafe Oweh, 27-year-old pass rusher. We saw him have a really big game against us last regular season. We're very familiar with this player because, of course, he's a part of a division rival. So having somebody that wants to come to you from a division rival always feels just a little bit sweeter. And whether we lose Myles Garrett and our edge tandem becomes Oweh and Gibson, or if we're able to keep Garrett and we can move Gibson inside of it because of his versatility, I think either way, this is a move that with limited options, we're going to try and make work here in Cleveland, using that money we saved by post-June 1 designating Deshaun Watson to try and upgrade this defense with really our biggest splash of the series so far in free agency. Cleveland really scoured the market in search of an off-ball linebacker that they could pair with JOK to not feel pigeonholed to drafting one, but that option just straight up is not there. There's some decent linebackers on the board for sure, but nobody with any sort of interest in the squad. We could get at least orange interest with Ivan Pace here if we were to change our scheme, which I am interested in looking at the schemes to make sure we have ones that I actually like. I haven't yet done that, but that would still only be orange. So unless we make the same change to the house rules, there's just not going to be much available in free agency here. Even above 70 overall, we're still pretty much looking at just Odafe Oweh. I knew free agency was going to be tough, but it is extremely tough here early on in this series, and likely will be until we become, at the very least, a good playoff contender. Ultimately, though, I like the challenge here, so with only one player that really has any interest in joining the squad, we're going to try to see if we can get him to come to Cleveland. And Odafe Oweh is officially a Cleveland Brown. I think this strengthens our front a lot. Daniel Gibson can play inside, which is a very big weak spot for this team. And maybe he can perform better there because he was a little bit of a disappointment out on the edge. If you take out one game, he only had 1.5 sacks in his other, 12 or 13 games played. I know he missed a few games, but not an awe-inspiring rookie year. Putting some pressure, adding another edge to the mix here in Odafe Oweh, and hopefully this makes our defense stronger, which was, a little bit disappointing last year. Hoping Oweh can fix that. The Browns had also made some preliminary calls on the availability of Derek Brown off of the 5-12 Panthers to see if they would like some picks to put into that rebuild that they are underway, but the addition of Odafe Oweh has, at least for now, halted these trade talks with the Panthers. Jeffrey Simmons was another player that the Browns had inquired about, but once more with the addition of Odafe Oweh, the trade talks for an interior defensive lineman are stalled out, but look out for a potential reignition depending on the results of the upcoming NFL draft. Probably should have done this before signing the contract, but let's take a look at just what Odafe Oweh did in his last season. 13 TFLs, 7 sacks is pretty solid. It's not elite by any means, but also got a pick in there, which is impressive. But that's solid production, and I think I'm not regretting by any means the decision to sign him based on what he did last year. We currently have no free safety at all on the roster, and Malik Hooker does have a yellow interest in joining the squad. So I'm thinking just 1-year deal here. I don't know if I want to commit long-term. $3 million for Malik Hooker to come join the squad next year. I'd like to get it to 4, so let's do maybe like a 3.5 with a 1.5 guaranteed on a 1-year deal. I think that should be enough to put it up to 4 interest, and it does. Even though I like to bring a running back into the team at some point in the draft, I think Kareem Hunt is still somebody that we can try to bring back on a 1-year deal. He had some good moments for us. He's definitely regressing here, but Again, he's the only guy that we can't even offer to. Algiers close with orange interest. Just couldn't get either his second or his third interest here to bring it up to yellow, unfortunately. He's also pretty slow, but to be fair, so is Kareem Hunt, who we have offered. There were some interesting receivers that I would have loved to try and add, namely Romeo Doubs, but just once again, the lack of interest. Again, like Christian Watson would have been fun. We could change our scheme, but that would only put it up to orange interest. As much as I'm loving the challenge here, man, it would be nice to only require orange interest. I think it would help me out a lot, but I asked for the challenge, and we're getting it. This receiver room desperately needs some speed, and so KJ Hamler, one second, I want to look at his player card before I offer him. KJ Hamler is kind of somebody in the mid-70s overall-wise. He'd be the fastest receiver in the room. Obviously, at 74 overall, he doesn't have a lot of great skills right now, but with this spot, I think just adding some speed could be quite helpful for us. Only I want to offer really 1 year deals here. We'll go $4 million for KJ Hamler. Although there are some tight ends that I like in this draft class, there's no guarantee we take any. So I think Josh Oliver here, not looking for a 1 year deal by any means, and he's actually asking for a decent bit of money here. I might hold off on this one for a little bit, but I do have my eyes on Josh Oliver. He's got pretty good speed and run blocking combo, which I like for my backup tight ends. These three will be the players that we target here in this next round of free agency. And one of them did not come. Who was that? I just had his name on my list and I already forgot it, but we get 2 out of the 3 that we were targeting. It was KJ Hamler decides not to come to the squad. That is truly unfortunate. So with that, we will shift on over to Jahan Dotson here. Still has some speed, not nearly as much, but a 1 year deal for him at like $4 million. I think that might do. He might not accept it right away, but he doesn't have any other offers, so he shouldn't accept anything else. Where's he at? What? Okay, he just switches over to this screen, I guess. But Jahan Dotson, here, 3-bar interest. He might not accept it here, and he doesn't. So this will be the end of the first period of free agency. If you look around the league here, Mike Evans to the Cardinals at receiver, but let's look at the top 100 in total to see where people have gone. Mark Andrews to the Commanders. Brock Purdy to the Patriots? What? Why is Madden this way, man? Why is Madden this way? And then who signed Sam Darnold? The Jaguars? That actually, it seems crazy, but the Jaguars quarterback situation is kind of tricky. And Trevor Lawrence has not lived up to all of his hype. This one is insane. I'll undo the signing, but I don't know if anybody else is going to have the cap space to sign Brock Purdy at this point because of the way Madden works, so things might get a little tricky here. All right, here in week 2, I think I'm going to make a very slight adjustment to the house rule for free agency. In week 1, we're still going to require yellow plus interest. I believe in the old ways it was week 1 and 2 required yellow interest, and week 3 it was free reign. Now it's going to be week 1 yellow interest, week 2 orange interest, and then week 3 free reign. That'll help us out a bit here with getting an off-ball linebacker, which I think is very important. I think I'm still just looking kind of for 1 year prove-it deals with a lot of these guys, but Kenneth Murray here, we're going to offer him not a great offer, just a 3-bar offer, but it's the only one, and we're in week 2, so I think you'll start to see these be accepted a little bit. Not going to get here at the top of the linebacker market for a guy like Ivan Pace, which would have been a cool player to get. Would have loved a player of his caliber. Just like 99% of players, doesn't have any interest in coming to Cleveland, unfortunately. We would get Jahan Dotson to sign up with the squad, so we have another option at receiver that at least has decent speed, and now we'll see if we can be the next team that tries to make it work with Kenneth Murray. And since we were the only one with any sort of offer on him, I think we did get him. We're down to $5 million in cap room. I think that's going to be the end of our free agent excursions here in year 2. Focused a bit on just kind of filling some holes on spots that we didn't have kind of after the big splash in Oweh. Didn't have a starting caliber linebacker on the squad. Added one with Murray. Hooker, we had no safeties, and we only had 2 running backs on the roster here. Dotson added some speed, and then Oweh, of course, added a big piece to the defensive front, and it'll be very interesting to see just how he fits in with the squad. I think no matter which way it goes, we got a little bit better here in free agency, which when you're the Browns and your options are limited, that's about all you can ask for, honestly. Now it's the Bears who signed Brock Purdy, and I just don't understand why Madden is this way. The Rams don't have a single quarterback on the roster, and they have like $153 million in cap space. Please just sign there. And unfortunately, because I'm in an online league, I can't just temporarily take over the Rams, sign him, and then, deuce out. If I was doing an offline league, I could do that, but I'm limited here in an online league, and I'm probably just going to have to force undoing the Brock Purdy signing, or ultimately, if I have to, I don't know what I can do elsewise. Again, in an offline series, I am limited. I can't temporarily take over teams, so we'll see. It's time now for the official free agency recap. I will undo this Brock Purdy signing once more in hopes that somebody else will sign him in week 1 of the preseason. That being the Los Angeles Rams, so we'll desperately need a quarterback. So we'll see how that goes. I'm just going to quickly show you kind of who went where. Did anyone in our division make any big times moves? So far, not really. Batonio, the former Brown, goes to the Chargers there. We get the Broncos getting a nice left tackle replacement. And wait, the Broncos aren't. What am I talking about? The Broncos are not in our division. But yeah, so far, not a lot of activity. The Bengals upgrade their pass protection. That's pretty much the only move in the division, unless I'm missing something here, that was 80 plus overall. So our division's really good. They probably didn't have a lot of, cap space available, but we made the biggest signing in the division, which is a big win for the team. And yeah, we'll see if forcing this to go to the preseason week 1 will get a better destination for Brock Purdy. The best one by far, like I said, is the Rams. They have $150+ million in cap space, and they have no quarterback on the roster. Or at least they did as of the last time I checked. They might have signed one here at the very end of free agency, but I guess we can check that. Did the Rams sign anybody, or are they going to the draft with nobody? The Giants did that last year, so I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, it looks like the Rams are going to the draft with no quarterback. So they should have signed Brock Purdy. Instead, the Bears with Caleb Williams decided to go out and sign Brock Purdy like 3 times. So I can't really do much to avoid it. And that'll be the end of free agency here. So let's finish up this this episode with a final draft preview. We've talked about the quarterback, Donald Richardson, who we will be taking with the number 1 pick in the class. It's good YouTuber content to keep suspense as to who we will be taking, but in the case of this number 1 overall pick, it's just too obvious to really kind of feign any sort of suspense here. Really good athletically with a 4.6 40, which is good for quarterback. Has the traits you want, has 21 years old, has kind of A's and B's across the board on pretty much every quarterback rating that you want, except for deep accuracy, which is a C. It's a little bit lower than where you want to start, but I think deep accuracy isn't the toughest thing to upgrade by any means. Donald Richardson looks like a really good quarterback prospect. Not like the top end, but the tier like right below that. I would put him in that, on par, maybe even a little bit better than Glenn Davis, who came out and went to the Giants number 1 overall last year. I think Richardson is going to be a big upgrade at the quarterback spot, and I am very excited to take him at number 1 overall. I think he's very much deserving of it. He's a solid round 1 talent, which is more than enough to be excited to take a quarterback in the top 5. There's another guy that will go early in this class that is a top 5 talent that I think is a very good player. Now, we're not really in line to take this player unless we do an aggressive trade-up scenario, but 21 years old again. We have just an elite athlete here, sub 4.40 at his pro day. A short route, A spec catch, A stiff arm, which is fun. B medium route, B catching traffic, C deep routes. Kind of like with Richardson, a lot of A's and B's in the spots that you really want them. He's going to be good after the catch. He's a playmaker archetype. And you see in these ratings here, he's a really good athlete and he's got good receiver skills. Another guy that is, isn't like the best receiver that Madden generates, but he's kind of just the tier below that, where he is very much so a good player. And he is unfortunately projected to go in mock draft 4 as the number 4 overall player in the class. And so he's projected, I think, as the 12th best player in this class, maybe 13th. He's 13th in the class, but he's going to go all the way up at 4 according to the mock drafts. That's probably too high for me to consider a trade up. Unfortunately, I would love to trade up for this guy, pair the quarterback with the money receiver. Who knows? I may still even try it. It would have to be a godfather offer to move up into the top 5 of the class. Probably too much for us to really do, but if it's possible, this is the kind of receiver that you'd love to pair up with your quarterback in year 1. If we go back here to projection and kind of go based off of that, there is another receiver who's a solid round 1 talent. Now, he's a slot only receiver. You can get him much later. He's just not nearly as good of an athlete and has a very narrow skill set. Now, what he does, he's very good at, but going for a slot only wouldn't exactly be my favorite thing, but it might be our best option available. Now, if you expand the acquisition of weapons to the tight end spot, yes, I know we have David Njoku here, but Robbie Chandler is just a very, very good tight end prospect. Elite speed, sub 4.540 on him here. A run blocking, A short routes, B to C catch, A catch in traffic, A to B medium route as well. Not much of a deep route runner, unfortunately. It does have D to F injury, which is unfortunate. But A to B stiff arm and trucking as well. He's a after the catch monster. We know he's a guaranteed round 1 talent. I am planning on fairly soon creating a custom playbook, and we could just run a ton of 12 personnel. I think no matter what it is, we need to find a way to add weapons to the offense. Njoku and Judy just isn't enough, and I think the other receivers we could certainly improve on. Robbie Chandler wouldn't be, the traditional type of weapon addition, but if we become a heavy 12 personnel kind of player, Robbie Chandler can be that second tight end that has a lot of production and could eventually take over for Njoku, who is, getting into his 30s at this point in his career. So that's a round 3 target that I really like. You can question the need for tight end, but if we haven't taken a receiver up to that point, we need to find a way again to just get weapons on this squad. Bonds is another kind of slot only receiver. I won't really talk much about him. The second best receiver, I think, in this class, and it's going to look really weird when you look at his profile, but it's just because of how intriguing he is. I mean, you see all these C's, D's, and F's, and you think this is the second best receiver in the class. Well, he's 6'6" with really good speed. He has the same 40 time as Matt Driver, and he's just really good after the catch, which is just a really fun player. Now, he has a lot of holes in his game, and so this is what we're talking about. If we can't trade up for Matt Driver, the receiver class becomes very limited, very, very fast. And so Josh Rackley would be kind of a project player. You take the height, weight, speed in Rackley and hope you can develop him as a receiver, whereas Driver still has all those after the catch abilities, but also brings, kind of more of a day 1 receiver ready package. And the fact that we know that Rackley has a round 1 to 2 talent, even with all those terrible receiver grades, though, makes me think that his after the catch stuff might actually be pretty insane. That's kind of it for the playmaker side of things, but there is a running back that I like here. Now, I totally forgot to get this guy some extra scouting. I meant to for sure, but a day 3 running back who's kind of fallen down some boards, but I wanted to see what that ball carrier vision was, but I wouldn't mind taking Ernie McFerrin here at some point in this class if we get the chance to. I think he could be a really solid power back, and if we wait even later into the class, there's a guy here in Bobby Neal who has some good athleticism about him, and another guy who has the potential to have a ball carrier vision. In a series like this, ball carrier vision is fairly important. He's just more athlete than running back. I think he doesn't have a lot of the running back skills that you want. At just 5'8" as well, but 210 pounds at 5'8", it's kind of bowling ball style. So a couple of running backs, that's kind of it for that. There are some offensive linemen we like, but I'm not even going to bother showing you anybody else other than Tony Stevenson, because I think it's just that obvious that we'll take Tony Stevenson in this class. Insane athlete. And not a ton of A's in the pass blocking stuff or the blocking in general. He does have a run block power, but he also doesn't have anything below a C, which is very important. He's going to be fairly well-rounded and good. With that athleticism, with that age, that's an easy round 3 target. We have an early round 3 pick, and I think with the big need that left guard is, I can't imagine us using it on anybody else other than Tony Stevenson. So yeah, there are other decent, interior lineman. James Jones is one of them. He has maybe more A's. He's still pretty good lineman, but he's more of a pass protector. We got a pass protector center in last year's class. Let's go over to the linebacker position now, where we have some guys that are going to get a little bit more scouting. I chose both Woodyard and Bates to be part of my focus players for the final week. Again, I wish I would have used one of them on the running back. I totally forgot. But out of these linebackers, I think these two are the most likely to be picked by us. Bo Woodyard is just a really good athlete, elite speed with really good coverage ability. If he's available, late too, and we trade back from the second round, that could be a possibility for us. But probably more likely is the day 3 prospect here, Landon Bates, 21 years old, 6 foot, 230 pounds with good athleticism. There's definitely a drop off in skill, but you're getting him a lot later and you're still getting some good things that you like. B awareness, good athleticism, good age, and at least solid cover ability. Not nearly as good as the guys that are going to go before him. A little bit more of a project, but again, if you can get him on day 3, I think you take that. And then defensive tackle. Let's talk about defensive tackle. I meant to add this guy to my board, but I forgot until now, so we'll do it. We have Stephen Whitfield here, around 2 to 3 player, around 1 to 2 talent guaranteed. Elite speed and acceleration, just a 4.7 flat on the 40 with A finesse moves, B block shedding. So he can both rush the passer a little bit. He can also stop the run at a decent rate. D injury. Good strength is solid. You want to avoid kind of anything below probably like 86 or 87. I think that's gonna be where he comes in at, is kind of that upper mid 80s echelon, which is kind of the minimum you want, or at least the minimum that I want at defensive tackle. The other guy that we put some extra scouting on here at the end was Jaden Burke. Elite strength here, big boy. Want to see what that block shedding is. If it's B, I'm interested. If it's less, maybe not quite as much, but solid awareness, great play recognition, at least decent ability to rush the passer with C power moves. C finesse moves isn't going to be very good at all, but if he can have B block shed, C power moves, somebody that we can maybe get in the late 3rd, I'm interested in a guy like Jaden Burke. There's also some guys you can get later on that I'm a fan of, like Marshall Bronson. He is underrated in this class, guaranteed round 3 to 4 talent. He has great strength, not quite the elite level, but does have that B block shed, which will help him be a nice run stopper with good strength early on. We can get him much later. So maybe the options that we have later keep us from drafting a guy like Burke, but if Burke is good enough, I can see us taking him even with that. And you have another elite strength guy here, but only C block shed. So I think the defensive tackle class is solid. There are a lot of options. I don't know if any of them are necessarily elite. The only guy you're going to get A's with is Whitfield after, you know, the guy that's going to go top 5 in the class, which we're just not going to take a DT that highly. But there you have it. That's pretty much all of the players that I have on my mind for the draft. We do have a couple of punters. We do not have a punter on the squad anymore, so we'll need to take one likely with our last pick. I think there's actually a fullback that's projected to be drafted, so I put him on the board. And this guy is a pretty good blocker. But there you have it. That is this draft class. If you found anybody that you think we should absolutely be targeting from the guys that I showed you, let me know in the comments. The draft will be next episode. Decided to split the off season in 2 this time because I think it's just that big of an off season, and there was a lot to talk about, from the Myles Garrett trade request warning, which is kind of a reflection of what he's said recently in real life, but he doesn't want to go through a rebuild. That kind of inspired me to add something similar to this franchise to kind of put some pressure on the Browns becoming good and not focusing on, you know, maybe a 3-year rebuild plan, but trying to get good as soon as possible. That's all I've got here for part 1 of the offseason. Hope you enjoyed it. The draft will be coming out soon, and I'll see you then. Go Browns.